It's the Matt Sager Podcast, the last day of 2018, Monday, December 31st, and you may be saying to yourself, wow, Matt's really showing initiative, working on a holiday. But you don't know the half of it. This is also my birthday. I work through rain, sleet, snow, holidays, my own birthdays. I take this podcast very seriously, although I'm sure that you're itching to go out and get partying and celebrating and ringing in the new year, so this is going to be an abbreviated episode tonight. I've been doing lists these past several days as 2018's been drawing to a close of the most enjoyable entertainment we've gotten to experience throughout 2018. So I've done best TV episodes, best TV shows, best movies, and best comics. Now, with the year over, it seems to me appropriate that we do a list of most anticipated for the year to come. Because after all, we're ringing out the old. So tonight, we're doing the top 10 most anticipated movies of 2019. There was a lot to pick from. There's a lot that's coming up that looks very exciting, although much of it is still shrouded in mystery. You know, as these movies become closer to their actual release date, we'll doubtless get much more leaked information, more promos, articles about and interviews with the cast and crew of these movies that will further enlighten us as to just how great, or, unfortunately, this does happen, disappointing these films turn out to be. But so as of today, these are my most anticipated films of 2019. At number 10, Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix, featuring an incredible cast, including, in his first comic book movie ever, Robert De Niro's going to be in this film, as is Mark Maron. A ton of great talent. And we've seen lots of videos these last few months, none of which really seem to indicate what to expect from the movie. We've just seen clips of him on YouTube of Joaquin Phoenix wearing extra creepy clown makeup, doing these sort of nondescript shoots that indicate absolutely nothing about what we can really expect from this movie. Does it even involve Batman? Is this the Joker that we know? I mean, after all, Joaquin Phoenix's character, when he's not in Joker makeup, his name is Arthur Fleck, whereas Batman nerds like me know that traditionally, throughout most media, throughout the last several years, the Joker's identity, such as it is, it's very much shrouded in mystery. But when his name is uttered, it is uttered as Jack Napier. So who Arthur Fleck is, and as to his makeup, which is of course dramatically different than the makeup of any version of the Joker we've seen before, he looks like a crazy clown. He looks like John Wayne Gacy, which is one of the reasons this movie is very exciting. It could be really, really gruesome. It could exist sort of on the fringes of the DC universe and be given free rein to really let the Joker be the psychotic clown that he was always meant to be. And in casting Joaquin Phoenix, no offense, Mr. Phoenix, please don't come to my house in makeup and do something awful to me, but I would call this on-the-nose casting. So as of now, knowing as little about Joker as I do, I can only put it at number 10. It's quite likely that as it draws nearer to the release date, and as I see more video footage, that I'll come to regret not putting it closer to, number 1. But I can only work with the information I have. Number 9, It, Chapter 2. The original It was a TV miniseries, and it was not bad. I mean, by today's standards, it was terrible, but at the time, it was quite fun. And that series included both the younger days of the Losers Club, and then, of course, the later part of the book in which they're all grown up and they have to go back and face Pennywise. It has been split up into 2 movies. So It, which was wonderful, featured the young Losers Club facing off against Pennywise, but as you know, talking about scary, murderous, psychotic clowns, this one also happens to be some sort of, Stephen King is great at creating these monsters that are both interdimensional, beyond our human understanding, and at the same time, reflections of our own fears, doubts, insecurities, and what have you. And so 27 years later, the Losers Club is back together again, and they've changed quite a bit. And yet they're still haunted. They still have a job to complete. They've got to save the town, the world, the universe even, from this monster who, in tapping into our greatest fears, knows that the best way to do it is to dress up like and dance like and perform as a clown. And so Bill Skarsgård is back as Pennywise. The grown-up version of Beverly Marsh is played by Jessica Chastain. Bill is played by James McAvoy. Unlike the original version of It, the miniseries, Tim Curry will not make an appearance in It Chapter 2, to the best of my knowledge. But that doesn't make me any less excited, enthused, and just really jazzed to see it. This, too, is another movie that, sadly, I only know what I know, which is not a lot. So it sits at number 9 based on the information I've got, but by the time of its release, it's quite likely that it will be among my favorite films of the year. Now, at number 8, another remake of sorts, Hellboy. I am such a fan of the character. I've been a fan of Hellboy and BPRD since, I guess, probably longer than you've been alive. All the comics were amazing. The movies were spectacular, which in a way makes me kind of sad about the reboot because Ron Perlman as Hellboy was about the best casting I've ever seen in any movie ever. It was like he was born to wear those horns. This time around, Hellboy is going to be portrayed by David Harbour of Stranger Things fame, and he's a great actor. Mila Jovovich will be Nimue the Blood Queen, and I'm very excited to see on the big screen in what looks like amazing casting, Daniel Dae Kim as Ben Daimyo. It's definitely a different take on the character, for better or for worse. And when I first saw it, I thought, this isn't my Hellboy. He's acting silly. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's acting as though he were once human, and he's arguing with Professor Broomhold, why did you make me a demon? Which, Hellboy has never been anything but a demon. So that was a very weird sort of mixed message there. But Mike Mignola is behind this project, and he is the architect, creator, and caretaker of all things Hellboy, and it is very difficult for me to say, well, Mignola's behind it and I'm not. I think that if he's approved this movie, if he's enthused about it, that it suggests that whatever we thought of the trailer, I was not blown away by it, but it's very likely. Look, Hellboy is one of these franchises that I don't think I've ever seen anything other than excellence from it. And so that's what I expect from the new version of Hellboy. And boy, this is really shaping up to be a list and really a year full of movie remakes, reboots, etc. Because coming in at number 7, Pet Sematary. The original version of this film was not great, although it was certainly campy fun, but that doesn't necessarily jibe with what the book was, which was bone-chilling, soul-shaking horror. And sure, look, the Ramones song, that's everything for me. I love the Ramones with a passion that I can't really describe. And likewise, seeing Stephen King doing a cameo in the film was great fun. But Pet Sematary, if you've got some time, read the book. There's no camp there. There's nothing goofy there. There's nothing silly. It is a horror story in the most true, chilling sense of the word. And it looks like that's the approach they're going to take for the new version of Pet Sematary. With John Lithgow as Judd, Jason Clarke as Louis Creed, and a poster that's out which features one of the most memorable lines from the book, one that suggests it's going to be much more true to the book than the original version of Pet Sematary. The tagline, "Sometimes dead is better." Oh boy, am I excited for Pet Sematary. That's coming out April 5th, and I'm counting the days. Number 6, Godzilla King of the Monsters. Now, the most recent version of Godzilla that we saw got a bad rap from many, including myself. But it wasn't because Godzilla wasn't a great monster, and it wasn't because he wasn't creating great havoc and making a great, exciting, destructive scene of it all. It was that nearly half the film was dedicated to people going, hey, the Earth's shaking. I wonder if something's going on. Oh my gosh, I'm nervous. And just alluding to the fact that Godzilla exists. And foreshadowing is certainly a great part of storytelling, as is building suspense and fear before you reveal the great big monster. But Godzilla something went wrong in the editing room, where 50% of it was just people talking about Godzilla. When Godzilla finally appeared, it was great. And I believe that the studio has learned their lesson, that as great as Bryan Cranston was and is in everything he does, he didn't really need to share half the screen time with Godzilla, for whom the movie is named, and the reason that all these butts are in all these movie theater seats. With Godzilla King of the Monsters, everything I've seen and heard about it strongly indicates that they've learned their lesson, and this is going to be a great big monster free-for-all smash-em-up, in the vein of stuff like Godzilla vs. Mothra, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. We're now talking about movies that mean so much to me, that inform so much about how I watched them when I was just a little kid, and then again and again and again, I continue to watch them. And it truly looks as though Godzilla King of the Monsters is going to be just an all-out kaiju brawl. And sure, there will be people, and they'll talk, and they'll build up suspense, but they will do it in moderation. We're not going to have a 2-hour movie in which 1 hour of it is Bryan Cranston monologuing about monsters. And that's not a slight against Bryan Cranston. He's probably the best actor working today, and he himself has played a monster or two, Breaking Bad. It's just that they're going to get the ratio right this time, and who knows what kind of monsters we're going to meet. I am certainly hoping myself for at least Mothra, but it's going to be a great big monster. I hesitate to say it. MASH. I can't wait. Number 5, Captain Marvel. This is both going to be a lead-in to the next Avengers movie and a sort of soft launch of the next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Brie Larson looks spectacular in all the trailers as Captain Marvel. It seems throughout this story as though we're going to learn a lot about her. An enormous amount of backstory of Nick Fury is going to be revealed. You know, in these trailers, it's very interesting to track the trajectory of Sam Jackson as Nick Fury. First of all, he looks very young, much happier and less sort of dour than he does as an adult in the later Avengers movies. And he's also got both eyes. But as the trailers go on, you start to see there's a scratch above one eye, then there's a scratch under that same eye, and it's like, oh, I'd be willing to bet decent money that we're going to see Nick Fury lose his eye, which I don't mean to be morbid or gross or grotesque, but that is an integral part of his character. And Captain Marvel, I believe that her very existence, and I won't bore you with the details of this, but the fact that she was a superhero in the 90s, and in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there was no such thing as superheroes until the mid to late 2000s, that it involves a rebirth of sorts of the Marvel Universe, involving plot points from Avengers Infinity War, particularly as it pertains to Doctor Strange and his last-minute desperate attempts of using the Time Stone. I'm not quite sure how this is going to play out, but again, we've had all these Marvel movies, and throughout all of them, there's been a constant that Nick Fury and the rest of the world has never seen superheroes before, and yet Captain Marvel takes place in the 90s. So there is change coming to the Marvel Universe. There's also what looks like the Kree-Skrull War and or possibly Secret Invasion, hopefully a combination of the two. That would be awesome. But we're definitely going to see some Kree, and we're definitely going to see some Skrulls. And history, one way or another, is going to be rewritten. So I'm extremely excited about Captain Marvel. Number 4, Spider-Man: Far From Home. Sony has gained back all the mojo that it just sort of pissed away, beginning with Spider-Man 3, and then by the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. It was like they were trying to make you hate movies and hate comics and superheroes and just never want to go to the movies again. Those films were terrible. But then Spider-Man Homecoming came around, and admittedly, it had a hand from Marvel. Tom Holland's Spider-Man made his debut in Marvel's Captain America: Civil War, and it's quite possible that Marvel will play a role of some sort in the storytelling of Spider-Man: Far From Home. But even if they don't, Sony won back all that trust. No mean feat, because they had really just pissed me off. I can't even tell you. I hated Spider-Man and movies after The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. But then, a couple weeks ago, I saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and I now truly believe that the Spider franchise is in great hands. Admittedly, a couple months before that, I saw Venom and thought, these guys don't know or care what they're doing. But they made billions of dollars, so someone was very happy with it. And Spider-Man: Far From Home looks great. Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. There's a lot we don't know about him. You know, he was touted as the big villain of the film, but recent leaks and rumors and reports suggest that he's actually, at least in this movie, possibly an ally to Spider-Man against a greater foe. Now, I still think that in later films, if this franchise continues, it's almost a certainty that he'll return as a villain. Mysterio is a Spider-Man rogue. That's just who he is. But if they're revealing something new, creating a new kind of origin and backstory for him, one that involves, say, being on the side of the righteous, but then suffering some great indignity or insult that sets him down the path of evil. I love stories like that. In any case, every frame, every leaked rumor, everything that I know and have seen about Spider-Man: Far From Home suggests it's going to be even better than Homecoming, and I can't wait. It also means that Tom Holland will somehow amazingly survive my number 3 entry on this list, Avengers Endgame. After the events of Avengers Infinity War, the world, the universe even, is in tatters. Thanos is a mental patient who, for reasons that he's never been able to articulate. You know, it makes much more sense in the comics in which he is literally in love with death. Death being an actual figure, a skeletal, monstrous figure, but one who carries out the ending of all life. And so Thanos as a supervillain in the comics was very easily explained. He's the mad titan, he's insane, and he's in love with death and maybe having a sexual relationship with it. In the films, it's, I need to bring balance. I need to kill 50% of everything. And I do this with only solemnity and regret and sorrow, but it's what I must do. At no point does he explain why or how that makes any sense. So, in a different way, he is a murderous, terrifying monster in the Avengers films, and no less scary. You know, he showed up at the very end, the post-credit scene of the first Avengers film, but by the time of Infinity War, he is not only quite horrific, but, big spoiler alert here, he wins. There are so many deaths in Infinity War, I have not been able to keep count, but about half the Marvel heroes, maybe more, and half of all life everywhere is gone. So I sincerely hope that whatever Doctor Strange did, and however it involves Captain Marvel, they're able to fix what is a tragedy. I can't imagine seeing Avengers Infinity War as a kid and going, did all the superheroes just die? And the answer being, yes. As did Uncle Steve, your cousin Johnny, pretty much half of everybody. They're all dead. Tony Stark is adrift and hopeless in space. Things are dire indeed, and they need a great big win. There's also a lot of rumors about the fate of certain Marvel characters, some of whom may pass completely and be written out of the franchise, others of whom may still pass but will be replaced. I'm not going to go too deep into that tonight because I don't want to spoil it for you, but I believe at least one character will, by some set of circumstances, whether it involves his death or not, will pass his mantle on to another Marvel character who will take his place. That's all I'm going to say about that. Number 2, Us. The trailer for the new horror movie from Jordan Peele, who is just one of the most creative people alive right now, debuted on Christmas Day. It's the sequel to Get Out, and I believe the second in what Peele has said will be 4 movies in total about societal horror. You know, there's monsters, there's demons, there's hell dimensions, and what makes them so very scary is how much they have in common with our actual real-world problems. This trailer looked spectacular. Looks like, if anything, not that I want to compare one movie to the other, that's often not a fair metric, but this looked better to me than the original trailer to Get Out looked. This looks like Jordan Peele is just getting better and better and better, and I'm a little bit jealous, but mostly I'm incredibly excited to see this film. Also, you know, I don't know if this is one of the 4 movies, but at some point he's going to be doing an adaptation of the novel Lovecraft Country. He's just the best. Funny as hell, and an amazing horror movie filmmaker. Jordan Peele kind of has the life I want. But even though I can't step into his shoes, I can still take great pleasure in enjoying the films he creates. And I'll be doing that when Us debuts in 2019. As for number 1, well, this is a filmmaker who has a wildly uneven level of output. I would say about a third of his movies are classics that will be studied in film school probably 100 years from now, whereas 70% of them are like, they might be studied too, as here's what not to do with your movies. But as far as this film goes, there's every reason to believe it's going to be great. Not only the trailer, not only everything we know about the cast and everything we know about the story, but this is his one trilogy that he's done. Beginning with Unbreakable and continuing on into Split. The number 1 most anticipated movie of 2019 is this.
They've been lying to us all. You were sent here to be an avenging angel. How much do you want to avenge us?
These individuals have lost their perspective.
A lot of people are going to get hurt. Don't do this. You can convince the world we exist. Are you ready?
Yes, the number 1 most highly anticipated movie of 2019, M. Night Shyamalan's Glass. The third in his trilogy that began with Unbreakable, continued with Split, and ends with a supervillain team-up against David Dunn, played by Bruce Willis, in Glass. A movie that I've been excited for years. Unbreakable is one of my favorite movies ever. My love for it persisted throughout, Lady in the Water and all the other, Avatar: The Last Airbender. None of that quelled my love for Unbreakable. And Split made it very clear that despite the many mistakes M. Night Shyamalan has made throughout his career, he's never lost sight of this creative vision. And he's willing to learn from his mistakes, go on and continue to create great things. Maybe even be more meticulous, more thorough, more careful of a filmmaker, knowing that he is capable of creating some disastrous movies. Glass looks like his magnum opus, a movie I simply cannot wait for, but one which I'll have to. So here's wishing us all a wonderful 2019 filled with great movies, great success, both professionally and in our personal lives. And happy birthday to me. Thanks so much for listening to the Matt Sager Podcast, and happy 2019 to you all. Get in touch with me. You can email matt@mattsager.com or call 646-535-4788. You can also reach me on social media. On Twitter, I'm @MattSager. Instagram, I'm Real Matt Sager, and on Facebook, I'm The Matt Sager. Also, my voiceover page is there. It's Matt Sager VO, And please join, like, and subscribe to the podcast page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/MattSagerPodcast. Also, check out the links in the description for tonight's podcast episode for links to my Patreon and my merch store, brought to you from my very good friends at WeHaveMerch.com. As for everything else, my voiceover reels, contact information, archive back episodes of this podcast, articles, blog posts, and much more, you can find all that at MattSagerVoiceover.com. I'll see you next year, by which I mean tomorrow.